And spending $12K on cat food and kitty litter? Deduct that. And an internet Casanova who so many women say conned them.
Did you ever feel like, okay, you need to stop mooching off of me?
I'm being serious. You hammer down for a second?
No, not till you hear this.
Who is Ray Holycross?
This is Ray. Hi, Ray.
Hello.
He's just scum.
And to catch scum, she used her IRS refund as bait. You got taxed. And the picture-perfect Facebook family with thousands of followers, giving not money, but their hearts to help their little boy fight cancer. Only none of it was real.
Why would somebody do something like this?
What happened when the family suddenly vanished from the net? 2020 tracked them down.
Hi, it's Elizabeth Vargas.
Facebook fakes. Plus, from hobbling on crutches to running on stilettos.
What's going through my mind is she's a big old fake.
They're faking their way into a disability paycheck. Tonight, they're all shameless. Here's Barbara Walters.
Good evening. It's just 3 days until your taxes are due. So we start tonight with the story of a woman who used her tax return like bait in a honey trap to ensnare a former lover. In fact, a whole group of women say that they were scammed by the so-called internet Casanova, who not only took them to bed, he took them to the cleaners until they got even. Amy Robach has the story.
This is Ray. Hi, Ray.
Hello.
He's a filmmaker.
Say you happen to run into a man named Ray Holycross, and right away, he tells you something incredible.
Someone mugged him. Can you just briefly tell what happened?
Briefly, a rather short man came up to me, and he had a rather large gun. Yeah.
A gun?
A gun.
Are
yeah.
you serious?
Yeah.
You take pity on him, right? As you're about to see, plenty of people all over the country claim that would be one big mistake.
When I say the name Ray Holycross, what's your reaction?
It gives me chills, makes me feel sick.
Jen Clark says believing Ray Holycross helped make her life a holy mess. Just 2 years ago, she was on top of the world, an independent career woman working for a software company in Portland, Oregon. She had a nice home with a swimming pool and was raising her 12-year-old daughter on her own.
Obviously, everybody wants Prince Charming.
But then you thought you met Prince Charming.
Yeah, I did.
Prince Charming, a.k.a. Ray Holycross, a 29-year-old heartthrob, contacted Jen via the website Plenty of Fish. And in no time, she says she fell hook, line, and sinker.
All right, babe, I love you. He was attractive and charming, well-spoken. He said he was a director, told me that he worked on the show 24. And movies.
So he was exciting?
Oh yeah, he was, it was super exciting.
So sure she'd found the one. She says when Ray told her he'd been mugged and lost all his luggage and credit cards, Jen opened her heart. Right away, they were living together, sleeping together, but she says not exactly spending together.
I bought him clothes and took care of him because I cared about him, and I supported him. I fed him.
You sound like his mother.
Everything. Yeah, it was his mother.
Hey, it's me. I just wanted to say I love you. Bye.
For a whole year, Jen says Ray piled up the sweet nothings while she emptied out her savings.
What do you say to people who think there were red flags everywhere? How did this woman not know what was happening?
I really, truly just believed him. And I think every girl wants to believe that there's some guy out there who loves them that much.
She may be right.
Show of hands. How many of you would say Ray deceived you? All of you.
We went searching far and wide and brought together those left in his wake.
St. Joe, Michigan.
Chicago, Illinois. Salt Lake City, Utah.
Some call him a cad, some call him a crook. All say you couldn't believe a word.
Knight in shining armor without money, is that?
Yeah, exactly.
A first-class mooch. They say Ray told them similar stories.
I was willing to help him because he told me he had been mugged and that he had nothing.
They claim Holycross took whatever they would give, free food, free rent, sometimes even sex, until the day he suddenly vanished.
What did Ray take from you?
My iPad. He took my daughter's iPod. Around $4,000 at least. Just my time. But he gave me the ability to know that my gut instinct is number one.
From jilted to vigilante, they decided to turn the tables, figuring if Ray found his women on the net, that would be the place to sound the alarm. They created this website and a Facebook group to get the word out, to raise potential new girlfriends and locate old ones.
How many girls are we talking about?
Oh, we called 45, 50 women.
One of them was Jen Clark.
They said I supported Ray for however long, and then he stole from me. And
you believed them?
I believed them.
But still not enough to bail on Ray. Months later, she lost her job and says Ray told her they could start over in Chicago and he'd foot the bill.
I'm being serious. Can you put the camera down for a second?
She gave up that beautiful home with the swimming pool and says she woke up one morning only to find all the warnings come true. Ray was gone, along with her ATM card. She told the police he stole $900.
I lost not only just myself, my dignity, my faith in humanity, but I lost my daughter, who now lives with her dad. Really, I lost everything.
On your side, investigator Tom Jensen's here with a story of Ray Holycross.
But now Ray was on the run, with the news starting to spread locally.
Police across Oregon are looking for this man.
And nationally.
He's being called the Internet Casanova.
Even Ray's own brother had had enough.
He digs holes, gets into lies, and it's just a non-stop thing.
But where exactly was Ray?
This is Ray. Hi, Ray.
Hello.
He's a filmmaker. He does edits. He does Hollywood production and everything.
Hard as it may be to believe, where he was on camera.
We're about an hour away from Boise.
Incredibly, Ray had crossed paths with that man we saw earlier, who was driving cross country and recording the whole trip on video. And there he is, apparently telling the same old story.
Someone mugged him. Can you just briefly tell what happened?
A rather short man came up to me, and he had a rather large gun. Yeah.
A gun?
A gun.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Ironically, the man's video blog was called The Truth Is.
Do you remember Ray?
I'm still here.
The road trip turned to road kill when Ray arrived in Mishawaka, Indiana, and met Teresa Bridegroom. With a name like hers, he might have thought he had found the perfect foil for his next romantic romp. He had no idea. He had just met his match.
Who is Ray Holycross?
He's just scum.
Only days after meeting him through mutual friends, Teresa invited Ray to live with her and her 10-year-old son. She says she even let him use her Chevy to go to his supposed TV job out of town. But this reality show should have had a TVMA rating. Teresa later discovered cell phone videos of him with other women having trysts in her truck.
It just makes me sick that he did that in this truck. I don't even want the truck. It just disgusts me to know that he did it.
Something else disgusted her too. A receipt from a local pawn shop. She says he had sold her expensive camera.
I thought, no, I'm not letting him get away. There was no way I was going to do that.
So how do you catch a rat? With cheese, courtesy of the U.S. Treasury.
So what did you do?
I had texted him and told him I got my tax check.
That tax refund, fresh money in the bank, drew Ray back like a moth to a flame. A half hour after Ray arrived at the apartment, Teresa quietly called the cops.
Within a couple minutes, they were pounding on the front door.
Well, tonight, the man dubbed the Internet Casanova has been busted.
It felt great. I thought, how many women and cops, police departments were saying they were looking for him, trying to track him down, and I'm like, all I had to do was say, I got my tax check, and within 8 hours, done, gone, he's locked up.
Holycross pleaded guilty to a charge of theft, served 9 months in this jail, and then was extradited to a different county where he was convicted for another theft. He is scheduled to be released in December.
What should happen to Ray?
He should be in a mental institution.
In the meantime, these women simply want to warn prospective online surfers. Look out. They believe whenever Ray Holycross gets out, he could be looking to break your heart and your bank.
I'm in control when I wanna be. I'm in love with technology.
So, what's the most extravagant thing you've ever done with the money you got back from Uncle Sam? I hope you did. We are live tweeting throughout tonight's program, so let us know using the hashtag ABC2020. We'll be right back.
Next, is this woman eating a chocolate bar the mastermind behind one of the biggest Facebook fake-outs ever?
Why would she make all this up?
We're on the hunt.
Hi, it's Elizabeth Vargas.
How shameless can they get? Coming up. Shameless continues. Elizabeth Vargas with one of the biggest Facebook scams ever.
The internet. Playground for every pajama-clad pretender looking to pull a fast one for profit, attention, or perhaps just the twisted satisfaction of messing with someone's head.
The latest bizarre twist in an admittedly bizarre story. Day 2 of the Manti Te'o story.
Case in point, Manti Te'o's head, the star linebacker who found out a few months ago that his gorgeous girlfriend was actually a guy. But Neve Schulman will tell you that the cat-and-mouse game between a hoaxer and his or her prey is often more complicated than it looks.
I've probably been chatting with a guy this whole time.
A New York photographer, Neve fell for a 20-something in Michigan, only to discover that, oops, she was actually a middle-aged mom.
What do you guys think?
The whole cyber saga caught on tape by his brother and a friend and turned into the indie blockbuster Catfish.
Why were you so captivated by her? Why this anonymous person on the internet?
It was different. It was something new. It was a little mysterious.
The hit film became a hit TV show on MTV. Neve now playing Dr. Phil to other lonely hearts who've been duped. Like this blonde who learns that the male model she's been cyber dating is, surprise, another woman.
I mean, who does that? That's just so up. I mean...
Multiply that stunned reaction by 1,000 and you'll begin to understand the dimensions of a global internet hoax so vast and elaborate, it makes what happened to Neve look like an email typo. It started with a pitch-perfect combo of pictures and posts that just hooks your heart. A young boy fighting a brave battle with cancer. His name, Eli Durr, or Warrior Eli. Taryn Wright from Chicago stumbled across the story through a friend.
I think he had 3 different types of cancer at one point.
And how old was he?
He was about to turn 6.
It's a lot of cancer in a short amount of time.
The internet had been humming with his story for years. Cancer support pages on sites like Alex's Lemonade Stand. The Storybook family hailed from Saskatchewan, Canada. Eli's dad, a handsome Mountie, of course. His mom, Dana, a pregnant trauma surgeon with 10 adorable children. Right.
It just seemed like really easy to fall in love with them.
This 18-year-old in California who asked that we not reveal her identity became a faithful supporter of Eli's. Like so many others, she devoutly wore Eli's bracelets and ribbons sent in care packages from the family.
And I would spend my lunch breaks at high school passing them out to all my friends and saying, wear this to raise awareness to childhood cancer.
Then, out of the blue, a heartbreaking Mother's Day post that would send Eli's dedicated followers into mourning. J.S. Durr solemnly writes that his wife had just been hit by a drunk driver. She survived just long enough to give birth to their baby girl. The web erupts in sorrow, hundreds of people posting their condolences. But Neve Schulman says such a surplus of tragedy should have sent up red flags.
But if the person you're talking to has a series of family incidents, illness, oftentimes cancer, which we see a lot.
Miraculous survival.
Car accidents, yeah, things like this. Something to watch out for.
Taryn Wright reads the story and desperately tries to get more information. Oddly, she can't.
I Googled the name of the person that had died, and there was no real Google hits at all for her. And just the news value of a mother to 11 children dying on Mother's Day.
It should have been covered.
Exactly.
So at that point, are your alarm bells ringing loud?
Yes. At that point, they were super loud.
On a hunch, she tries searching the web for other places the Durr photos might have appeared. Lo and behold, this image of Eli's siblings in sunglasses posted on JS's Facebook page also appears on the site of a popular mommy blogger in, of all places, South Africa.
So you contacted her and said what?
I said, hi, I'm Taryn Wright from Chicago.
There was an email saying, I think that your pictures of your children are being used by somebody. And as I clicked more and more, I just saw more and more photos.
Photos of Tertia Alberton's kids, Adam and Kate, identified as the Durr children, Jude and Lily. And not just once.
I probably discovered over 70 images of my children.
But it wasn't just Tertia's photos that were lifted. The entire Durr family, the birthdays, the memories, all of it was fiction, stitched together with purloined photos from various unsuspecting uploaders. Pregnant Dana? She's actually a photographer from New York. The sweet and brave little Eli? Those photos belong to Jenny. Her son Adam is a healthy kindergartner who, thankfully, never had cancer. And Eli's dad, the dashing Mountie JS?
Hello. Hi, it's Elizabeth Vargas. Come on up.
Thank you.
Well, we found him not on horseback in the Canadian tundra, but in an apartment in New York City. Just a few blocks from ABC News. His real name is Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, Elizabeth.
And it turns out he has very little in common with his alter ego, JS.
So just to be clear, you're not a Canadian Mountie.
I'm not a Canadian Mountie.
And you don't have 11 children.
Do not have any children.
Back in Chicago, Taryn Wright has unraveled a decade-long deception. But it's the victims who will hand over the most crucial clue. Remember those rubber bracelets and the care packages? Well, the return address wasn't from Canada, where the Durrs said they lived. It was from Ohio.
Because of JS's top secret canine Mountie job, he couldn't.
His top secret canine Mountie job?
He apparently had a sister in the United States that would send this out for the family.
How convenient.
Right.
And who was the sister in the United States?
The sister's name was Emily Durr.
But unlike the fake family she created, Emily Durr is real. This is the mistress of deception right here, in the sweatshirt, munching on a snack outside her parents' house in Ohio. Emily Durr declined our invitation for an interview through her attorney. She's not been charged with any crime. The only thing she appears to have violated is the terms of the service agreement on sites like Facebook. And of course, everyone's trust. She did, however, offer an apology to the internet community that she betrayed, which Taryn posted on her website.
Why would somebody do something like this? Why would she make all this up? She didn't profit from it.
She did not profit from it. I think that she must have had, the attention must have kind of been addicting.
People who do this, I think, justify it by saying, okay, I know I lied, but what's important is that it was still me.
But do you buy that? Do you buy that this is a victimless act? A victimless deception?
There's absolutely a victim. To share intimate details of your life and feelings with someone who's deceiving you is wrong. No one should go through that.
Do you think we're going to see more of this kind of phenomenon?
Absolutely. So long as we're not looking people in the eye, face to face, there's always going to be room, a lot of room, for deception.
Next, they're walking and playing just fine, except when it comes to walking to work. Fake disabilities, free rides, and some injury-free activity.
Dare I ask what you mean by activity?
Paid for by your tax dollars. It's just Shameless when 2020 returns. Shameless continues. Cecilia Vega, with little injuries, turned into big payouts.
Police, we've had some complaints about con men pretending to be blind and crippled.
Oh, I'd love to help you, man, but I ain't seen nothing since I stepped on that landmine in Vietnam back in '72. It was rough.
In the movies, faking injury to make a buck is a tried and true scam. Until that is, you're busted by the cops.
I can see! I can see! I have names!
Eddie's made a remarkable recovery, but he's got nothing on real-life con artists caught on tape. Ignacio Maciel collected disability payments after claiming he hurt his back working at a department store cosmetics counter. Watch as he limps to his doctor's office for an appointment. But this doc must be a miracle worker. Maciel immediately heads to the gym, where he's caught on camera burning up the elliptical machine, pumping iron, even taking a 45-minute exercise class. The payoff for all that hard work? Hard time. In 2011, Maciel was convicted of insurance fraud. Catching fake injury scammers is just another day at the office for Southern California PI John Hakala. His personal hall of shame includes this man Hakala says he caught at the driving range despite his supposed back, neck, and arm injuries. Talk about a no-handicap golfer. When he's out on a stakeout,
video camera,
weapon number 1, Hakala comes armed with the tools of his trade.
The pen is not a pen. There's a camera there. That's the lens right there.
Hidden cameras to catch the suspect in the act, even one inside a cigarette box. You're a sneaky guy.
You have to be. These people are pretty sneaky themselves.
According to Hakala, it took years of surveillance to get the goods on this guy, who Hakala says claimed to have injuries to his knee, back, and arm. Yet here he is, loading a heavy lawnmower into the back of his pickup truck.
Maybe he went to Lourdes and bathed in the fountains over there and got healed.
Behold, a similar miracle on the streets of San Mateo, California. Our subject, Madupe Martin, who collected almost $30,000 in disability payments after claiming she hurt her ankle while working as a school janitor. The insurance company was suspicious and placed Martin under surveillance. She certainly looks hurt as she's seen visiting her doctor's office on crutches. But later she's seen running like a gazelle, in sky-high heels, no less.
What's going through my mind is she's a big old fake. She's committing fraud. She's lying to her doctors. She's lying to her employers.
But the icing on the cake for investigators was her activity on this day. She starts with another visit to the doctor, her trusty crutches doing the legwork. Later, she hooks up with her boyfriend and they head to the park. She may be too injured to go to work, but she's certainly healthy enough to get right down to business.
She is engaging in activity with this young man.
Dare I ask what you mean by activity?
Well, it appears some sexual activity.
And this is where we have to stop the tape to avoid an X rating. And investigators had seen enough, too. Martin was convicted of insurance fraud and served 9 months in jail.
Why is this worth doing, running a scam like this that takes so much energy for these people? What are they getting out of it?
Big, big payday, and it takes very little effort. Doesn't cost the person a penny.
And if you think you've seen it all, please consider the curious case of James Farkas Cohen. Cohen is notorious for filing more than 180 lawsuits against Los Angeles businesses, including this bike store, this beauty salon, and this tire store. His MO? According to these business owners, an ingenious shakedown. He demands fat payouts, claiming the businesses haven't made the necessary modifications to accommodate his severe disability.
He hit businesses up and down the street here.
Pizzeria owner Chris Caminiti says many businesses simply paid Cohen off for a few $1,000s rather than take on the expense of fighting him in court.
It's a terrible circumstance, and a lot of our neighbors were victimized and paid him.
Business owners say during court appearances like this one, Cohen certainly looked like a suffering senior. In fact, in a court document, Cohen claimed he had end-stage emphysema, which he said limited his ability to walk, work, speak, and breathe, and required him to use a wheelchair and an oxygen tank. But a suspicious business owner made a surprising discovery about Cohen and tipped off our LA affiliate, KABC, which shot this video of Cohen outside his home in 2011. Apparently, the fresh air had worked wonders for that end-stage emphysema. The wheelchair and oxygen tank were nowhere in sight, just the bronze, if slightly saggy torso of the 72-year-old as he trekked up this steep slope.
We just saw you take a pretty nice hike up that hill. Any explanation for that?
Why don't you just talk to my attorneys or doctors about all that?
The business owners sued by Cohen gathered at a local bar to screen the footage of their suddenly nimble tormentor.
He's in better shape than I am. Look at him, he's hiking with his dog.
He's actually waiting for the dog to catch up.
If he wants to be in a good shape to spend all that money he's getting from everybody.
But guess what? Cohen later showed up at court. His condition had apparently taken a turn for the worse. Cue the crutches.
You really can't put the crutches down now. We know you can walk. You really don't need to do this.
I can walk, yeah. And sometimes I have trouble.
KABC's expose helped business owners win their cases, and Cohen's now in even more trouble. He was recently convicted in a different scheme involving bilking government agencies out of benefit money. So for all you wannabe scammers out there, watch out. The investigators are on the prowl with their cameras, just waiting to bust you.
They always think, I'm such a small fish, who's going to bother with me? But likelihood is if they do it, they're going to get caught.
Next.
This is a sweet house.
No mortgage, no taxes, and no money. Just a mansion on the water, free for the taking.
All you have to do is file a little bit of paperwork, and bingo, this becomes your backyard.
Shameless Squatters, coming up. "2020 continues with Dan Harris and Squatter Scams.
Boca Raton, Florida, a city synonymous with conspicuous consumption, designer clothing, designer dogs, and bombastic boats. Welcome to the aptly named Golden Harbor Drive, where everybody's backyard is right on the water. Rocking the infinity pool. Pretty good look. It is a Tony enclave that not long ago played reluctant host to a strange and uninvited guest.
This is it right here.
Shortly before Christmas, Mike Avram notices something odd transpiring at a house on his block. This is a sweet house. It is a $2.3 million, 7,500 square foot plus-size palace. The previous owner had money problems, signed it over to Bank of America, and moved out. Now, a stranger is moving in without paying a penny to the bank, and he's not alone. A bunch of guys pull up and move into this beautiful house and tell you they are establishing an embassy.
An embassy for their mission.
Their religious
ministry.
mission.
Yeah, and they're going to have transient families coming in and out in accord with their ministry.
And your response to this was?
I don't think that's going to fly.
It gets even weirder quickly. The new occupant posts paperwork on the house saying nobody can enter without an invitation and 2 types of ID. On the elaborate forms, the name of the man who now claims ownership, Andre Barbosa. Neighbors Google him right away, and up pops the Facebook page of a 23-year-old Brazilian, an aspiring hip-hop artist who calls himself Loki Boy after the Norse god of mischief. That is when neighbors call 911.
They've changed the locks, they put a no trespassing sign out, and they're moving in.
All right, I'm going to have an officer dispatch as soon as possible.
I called the police on these right here. Squatters. They're just defiant.
The cops show up and speak to Loki Boy, who you can see right there on a neighbor's cell phone video. But here's where what seems like a clear-cut trespassing case gets truly crazy. Loki Boy presents the police with this document, which stops them in their tracks. Loki Boy is claiming something called adverse possession.
The notion is that someone can move on to a property, fix it up, take care of it, and after a period of time, it's their property.
It is an obscure but very real law that is on the books in all 50 states. If Loki Boy stays for 7 years, the mansion is his.
So this kid was pretty clever because he was using language that was very confusing for you and your force.
Absolutely.
Thus begins a bizarre stalemate, with Loki Boy occupying the house day after day. Police, prosecutors, and the bank are in a state of confusion and paralysis. In fact, at first, the bank denies even owning the house, which is a lucky break for Loki Boy, who meanwhile is living large, working on a new rap video with the mansion as a backdrop.
Was that frustrating for you?
Very.
More than 4 weeks into this thing, Lynn Houston, a nervous next-door neighbor, has had enough.
I was going to do anything to get rid of him. Anything.
You were willing to buy that house?
Yes.
You were going to take out a mortgage?
No.
Just pay cash?
Yes.
Pay cash for this house to get this kid out?
Yes.
Neighbors outraged to find out a squatter.
When her phone calls to the bank are not returned, she alerts the media.
A hard to believe but true story out of Florida.
The story goes national.
This guy is making it his home for free.
Meanwhile, the nervous neighbor is convinced that the nightmare here on Golden Harbor Drive is connected to something much larger. We decide to do some digging. Remember those weird documents Loki Boy posted on the front of the house? There is another name on there, James McBride, who, as we learn, is the founder of a mysterious group called Divine Province.
We can take back all this property that has been taken from us.
McBride is an ex-con who's done time for cocaine importation and run-ins with the IRS. He says he hasn't paid federal income taxes in 26 years and claims he can teach you how to live like him. McBride is very suspicious of the media, but he agrees to speak exclusively with ABC News.
What is your connection to Andre?
He's a member of the Divine Province.
He says he didn't know in advance about Loki Boy's mansion takeover, but he now supports him fully.
It's lawful to move into a house that's not yours and say, this is mine.
Correct.
But there are many other laws McBride feels he and his followers are not subject to. How? He shows me a seal he says was a gift from Pope Benedict himself.
What can you do with this?
It means I can now give orders or issue decrees that the Vatican and the Roman Curia must follow.
Are you saying that you have some sort of papal authority here in North America?
In the globe.
In the globe?
Correct.
So you have primary control of the earth?
Correct.
That seems like a lot of power.
I understand. It is. And a lot of responsibility.
This may sound ridiculous, but the FBI is not laughing. There are an estimated 300,000 people in this country who share some version of McBride's belief that American laws do not apply to them. Some of these people are using tactics like adverse possession to take over vacant homes.
This one right here has been claimed by a guy named Paul Delator.
We found examples all over South Florida.
All you have to do is file a little bit of paperwork, and bingo, this becomes your backyard.
And it's not just Florida. This is happening all over the country, with people moving into empty mansions without paying a dime.
Why did you decide on this house? Why not? It's a beautiful house.
Meanwhile, back on Golden Harbor Drive, fully aware of this situation now, nervous neighbor Lynn Houston once again takes action, hiring off-duty cops to watch Loki Boy's mansion.
Some people aren't sleeping. Some people can't eat.
Just 2 days later, with media attention reaching a fever pitch, the cops mount a raid.
We showed up here, opened the door, walked in, no one's here.
They haul away Loki Boy's stuff and change the locks. 51 days after it began, the nightmare on Golden Harbor Drive ends with a whimper. Loki's house of cards has tumbled down. He has sneaked off quietly. The home is now back in the hands of its rightful owner, the bank. The neighbors, however, have not heard the last of Loki Boy. Days later, he officially releases this music video where he is seen dancing with his mother against a backdrop of the mansion on Golden Harbor Drive, which, by the way, has now been sold legally.
I think the whole neighborhood feels safer. I feel resolved. We'll sleep better tonight.
If anything good has come out of this ordeal, the neighbors say it's that they've grown much closer. They throw a victory celebration complete with a surprise guest.
Okay, Loki, come on out.
A Loki boy impersonator.
Next, are they just trying to punk the IRS? Deducting breast implants, prostitutes, rub-down oil for muscle shows, and kitty litter. The craziest tax write-offs we've found. And even crazier, some of them were approved. Shameless deductions when we come back. "2020 continues. Once again, Barbara Walters.
When tax time rolls around, it's a given that there's going to be some creative bookkeeping with those deductions. But creative or crazy like a fox when you hear what some of your fellow Americans think they can get away with, and some of them do. Here's Paula Faris.
Albert Einstein allegedly said the hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax. Well, fear not, Uncle Albert, because Uncle Sam does occasionally have a soft spot for brilliant minds like yours who come up with imaginative deductions. Case in point, topless dancer and model Chesty Love. That's not her real name, and those aren't her real breasts on Jerry Springer. She argued with the IRS that her size 56N implants, I said N as in no kidding, were necessary stage props for her career as an exotic dancer and model. The IRS originally had no love for Chesty until a tax court sided with her, saying her freakishly large breasts were part of her business costume.
Cereal might not be as sweet in the new year.
Anitra Hamper, a former anchor woman in Ohio, had a business costume as well, and her expenditures were even bigger than Chesty's. Over 4 years, she wrote off $90,000 and was audited.
Didn't you think that was going to be a giant red flag?
Here's what I know. It cost me a lot of money to keep my job.
The first expensive write-off?
I had to buy specific shoes, had to buy specific jewelry.
An on-air wardrobe she says she wouldn't be caught dead in off-air. She challenged the audit in court where documents show she even wrote off lingerie. You know, no unsightly lines on TV. Then there's
your makeup. Have to have it. As you know, high definition television changed our lives. And, you know, it's expensive.
I too spend a lot of money on makeup and hair, manicures, and pedicures. I admit that even if I wasn't working in this business, I'd probably still get a lot of these services done, which is why the IRS told Anitra, nice try.
And that's the key. Is it a business expense, and is it ordinary, and is it reasonable?
This familiar face from H&R Block explains he's got the 411 on that 1040.
If you're getting your hair done into a 19th century look or an 18th century look for an audition or for a performance, then you can deduct it. But if you're just getting your hair cut on a regular basis to look good for TV or whatever, then it's not going to be deductible.
Know what else is not going to be deductible? Spending $65 grand on hookers.